Hello and welcome to Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Yang Guang. Ousmane Dembele won the 2025 Ballon d'Or award after a treble winning season with Paris Saint-Germain. How has he grown into the player of the year? How far is Lamine Yamal from claiming the accolade? To unpack these questions, I'm joined here with my fantastic co-hosts Tian Yu and Brandon Yates. Alright, unlike last year when fans debated should it have been Rodri or Vinicius Jr. this year, Dembele is absolutely the man to be, no questions, no doubts. But first of all, let's talk about this tremendous, remarkable turnaround of Dembele's career. Remember, the narrative about him a few years back was the unprofessional label, the injury troubles, the player who seemed to be wasting his generational talent. But now, he's the undisputed Ballon d'Or winner, the star for PSG, and even model of professionalism. So Tianyu, what makes Ousmane Dembele's transformation? Was it simply a case of young player needing time to grow up, or was there a specific catalyst, maybe a coach, becoming a father, joining PSG, or more suited game tactics that flipped this switch?
Well, yeah, I think, like you said, honestly, if you told me 2 years ago that Ousmane Dembele would win the Ballon d'Or, I would think you're insane. It just feel like impossible back then. And now, not only has he done it, but he's even done it before Mbappe to win the prize. And that's something I don't think anyone saw coming. So yeah, for me, I think his transformation isn't about one single moment. It's actually a mix of a lot of things. And the first thing to remember is that he came up so fast at Dortmund. He was scoring double digits and racking up assists with ease in his first season there. By the time he got that huge move to Barcelona at age 20, he probably thought raw talent was already enough for him. But then the bad habits caught up with him, the narratives about his poor diet, bad sleeping, and constant injuries. So you could see that arrogance of early success had really stopped him from taking professionalism seriously. And the real turning point, I would say, came at PSG. Luis Enrique deserves a lot of credit here because he switched Dembele into more of a false nine role. He put him closer to the goalpost and gave him more chances to make a direct impact. But more importantly, Enrique pushed him, not just, tactically, but mentally, because Enrique demanded more discipline and more leadership from Dembele. And Dembele finally responded, and you could see his attitude shift, his hunger for trophies growing, and his body holding up better because, he just started taking care of himself. So yeah, I think instead of saying by a single factor, I think it wasn't really an overnight success. It was more like a lost genius who finally learned from his past mistakes, found the right role, and got the right coach at the right time. I think it's a combination of factors that actually let him cash in on all that talent we had been waiting to see for years.
Brandon, what's the biggest reason for Dembele's, redemption story? Is it mentality, philosophy, or just the plain old-fashioned, maturity?
Look, I think it's a combination of things. I guess when it comes to both off and on the field, I think maturity is a big part of it. We have to remember that, and Tian, you touched on it as well, that his, ascension happened quite early on. I mean, at Dortmund, he was already being touted as the next global superstar and secured that early, insane transfer fee move to Barcelona and arrived as, a superstar and was probably treated as a superstar. And potentially maybe didn't have the right people or minds around him to kind of rein him in, which can be quite problematic. And we also have to remember, being away from home. I know he was in Germany, but I think, Spain might be a different culture and a different set of challenges and lifestyle options that might be difficult for some youngsters to handle if they don't have the right people around them. We also have to remember that, a lot of these players are just kids. Some handle the spotlight and, changes in lifestyle and income and that sort of thing. Some handle it better than others. And away from that, some people also just take longer to mature or settle into a new role. Some do it better than others. So I think with Dembele, like I think, look, some of those issues like arriving late and for practices and late nights and poor diet and poor recovery and all of that stuff. I think he definitely will raise his hand up and take, some blame for, well, probably a lot of blame for some of the choices that he made at Barcelona. But I think there were also a couple of things working against him. I think that he obviously struggled with injuries. I'm sure some of that had to do with his own personal choices, but a lot of that also has to do with bad luck and, physically maturing and all of that sort of thing. And then again, I think at Barcelona, he was definitely brilliant in flashes, but it was kind of intermittent. And I think that he also had a bit of role confusion. But, now at PSG as a mature man, both on and off the field, obviously certain things have happened to him off the field and he's, returned back to France and has this, on-field and off-field leadership role that he hasn't had before. It seems like a combination of these factors has definitely benefited him, not just as a person, but as a player as well. I think that he's taken on, the off and on-field leadership role. I think he's taken it on really well. I mean, for example, at PSG, Luis Enrique handed him definitely a clear leadership role and a tactical plan that I think gave him the ability to showcase his two-footed dribble, things like late runs and counter pressing and turns, some of those moments that we saw relatively infrequently at Barcelona into repeatable match-winning actions, which I think was huge for PSG and the incredible season that they were able to have last season, not just domestically, but particularly on, the European club football stage, particularly in the Champions League. But we saw, brilliant performances all over the place. So off the pitch, he's definitely steadier. Teammates and staff have pointed to better routines and, again, responsibility that comes with age and life events. And I think the combination with the responsibility and the maturity that he's shown along with, I think the role that Luis Enrique has given him at PSG, which I think he's definitely flourished under, and we've seen a system that's been kind of built for him. I think that's produced a massive statistical leap that I think has been a huge proponent for his Ballon d'Or victory this season. So I think it's incredibly well deserved. But to point out just maybe one factor that led to this incredible jump, I think is impossible. I think it's a huge combination of things. And I think it's not just down to, his own sort of choices and decisions. I think that a lot has also happened around him. And I think there's a lot of people around him that have definitely influenced his life on and off the field in a positive light. And I think we've seen that, in his Ballon d'Or winning season.
Right. I definitely think PSG and Dembele brought out the best of each other. Dembele's individual successes cannot be separated from the system he's in with PSG, which greatly changed his game approach. We've noticed that Dembele has become more decisive and less flashy on the pitch, prioritizing, end products instead of, pure entertainment.
Yeah.
I think that's a drastic change from him on the pitch. But talking about his game attitude and maturity, I do believe it seems like since he had his daughter born a couple of years back, he became more disciplined and manageable. I definitely get this feeling when I became a father 2 years back. I definitely felt more, sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
It totally changed how I look at my family, look at my career, look at my life entirely. So from that way, I think I feel him from that perspective. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why he could become so mature today and to be a Ballon d'Or winner. But the question now is sustainability. Tianyu, is the Dembele we saw last season the Dembele we can expect for like the next 5 years? Or was it just a career year, a perfect push of motivation and fitness that is very difficult to replicate for him?
Well, yeah, I actually don't think this is just a one season wonder for Dembele, because I really see it as the start of something bigger. Because, his talent has never been in question. How many players in the world can truly use both feet at the same level. That's such a rare gift in football. And now that he's finally found the right role, playing as more of a false nine in PSG, it feels like he's only scratching the surface. This was his first season in that position, and already he's winning the Ballon d'Or. So yeah, imagine what the numbers will look like once he gets even more, comfortable and adjusted to that role. There would definitely be more goals, more assists, and more influence on the pitch. And of course, injuries will always be a big concern, a big question mark with him. And we've seen how much they have held him back in the past. But I think he's turned a corner. I think he's taking his diet seriously. He's respecting the lifestyle a professional footballer needs to have. And I think with modern sports science and recovery methods, he can definitely extend his peak years. So if you add that to his flexibility and technical skill, I really think we'll keep seeing him grow. So yeah, for me, this Ballon d'Or isn't the peak of his story. I think it's the beginning of a new chapter for Ousmane Dembele.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 more Ballon d'Ors.
Maybe.
Is that
Maybe.
too much to expect? Brandon, now a tricky question for you. Just imagine this scenario. If France wins the FIFA World Cup next year and Kylian Mbappe and Ousmane Dembele make equal contributions for the national team and they also share similar glories on the club level, who do you think have better chances of winning next year's Ballon d'Or? I mean, this is possible.
Yeah, I mean, Kylian Mbappe, because he's at Real Madrid. So I think that anything to do with European, honors or being recognized as some sort of, individual brilliant talents, I think Real Madrid seems to have, for many years, of course, the Ballon d'Or was kind of reserved for Messi and Ronaldo, but both Barcelona and Real Madrid. So I think that, if that situation does arise, I think that Kylian Mbappe will probably take the honors. And I think, in that situation, considering he only has one, but considering Dembele has already claimed the Ballon d'Or, I think if they produce very similar numbers, it will probably go to Kylian Mbappe. And I think at the end of the day, if it is very similar numbers, I think it's going to depend on who has more goals. And who produces bigger moments in the bigger games. So, for example, a Champions League final or a World Cup final, I think those will also be determining factors. So it remains to be seen. But if I had to just think off the top of my head, in that situation, if it's really close between the two of them, and if I'm voting, I'd probably go for Kylian Mbappe. But all credit has to go down to Ousmane Dembele for last season for the huge turnaround that he's had. I don't think we've had any sort of major turnarounds like that with Kylian Mbappe. I think his progression has been quite steady and relatively predictable, but I don't think many people saw this huge turnaround from Ousmane Dembele, particularly when he left Barcelona to join PSG.
Fair enough. Before we move on, here's a quick review of the biggest sports headlines in China and around the world for the past week. The United States displayed its sprinting power, claiming 3 out of 4 relay golds on the rain-soaked final day of the World Athletics Championships. In the men's 4x100 meters, Noah Lyles brought the baton home as the United States clinched the gold in the world-leading 37.29 seconds.
I mean, it means a lot. This is my first gold medal, so...
Hey, congratulations!
It means a lot, just showing people that we're the fastest in the world, so, yeah.
It means a lot to me as well. I mean, you know what happened last year, so I came here just to rectify that. Me and Christian's handoffs were smooth like butter, and Courtney and I got the job done. Noah and Courtney got the job done, and that's all you can ask for.
The Americans also triumphed in the women's 4x100 meters and 4x400 meters. Next, the World Athletics Championships will be in Beijing in 2027. Paris Saint-Germain forward Ousmane Dembele won the 2025 Men's Ballon d'Or, claiming the honor for the first time in his career.
Quand t'es jeune, tu penses à gagner ces titres-là.
When you were young, you think about winning those titles. Then as you grow up, you realize that it's the team titles that matter. Winning the Ballon d'Or is exceptional. I didn't plan on crying. I wanted to stay strong and thank everyone. But as soon as I started talking about my family, the ones who have been there since the beginning, my emotions got the better of me and I broke down a little.
18-year-old Barcelona forward Lamine Yamal finished second in the men's Ballon d'Or vote and received the Copa Trophy for the best young player. Spain's Aitana Bonmatí earned women's Ballon d'Or for a third consecutive year. Barcelona faces being without Spain international midfielder Gavi until February or March after he underwent an exploratory operation on his right knee. The injury is to the same knee where Gavi suffered a torn cruciate ligament in 2023, which kept him out of action for a year. In the NBA, the Houston Rockets season has taken a turn for the worse before the year has even tipped off. Rockets star point guard Fred VanVleet has suffered a torn ACL and could potentially miss the entire 2025-26 season. The Brooklyn Nets have signed Chinese forward Zheng Fanbo, who will compete for one of the last 3 two-way spots on the Nets roster. The 22-year-old became the second Chinese player in the league, joining Yang Hansen from the Portland Trail Blazers. In tennis, Chilean qualifier Alejandro Tabilo saved 2 championship points to upset top seed Lorenzo Musetti in a third-set tiebreak at ATP Chengdu Open.
That was insane, being able to save 2 match points. Had to be there so mentally. The team and my girlfriend there also helping, staying in the match. I was a little tired.
In the final of the ATP Hangzhou Open, third-seeded Alexander Bublik of Kazakhstan had a much tougher time than expected against the French qualifier Valentin Royer and needed 2 tiebreaks to claim his 4th title of the year. Welcome back. Now let's switch from player entering his prime to someone who is just beginning. Lamine Yamal, the man behind Ousmane Dembele in this year's Ballon d'Or voting. His Euro performance was a revelation, and he's carrying that form into his club performance. I think every fan should now agree that the hype around Lamine Yamal is real. But the question is that the Ballon d'Or is all about sustained excellence and, winning the biggest glories. So can you, realistically speaking, what has to happen for Lamine Yamal to win the Ballon d'Or award? Is it a 2026 World Cup? Can it happen soon?
I would say Lamine Yamal is already pretty close to Ballon d'Or level. I mean, what he's done for Barcelona last season, and particularly for Spain at Euro 2024, is just unbelievable. At only 18 years old, I mean, he's in China. He's only able to take part in the driver's license test. And he's already one of the best right wingers in the world, and that's not an exaggeration. His dribbling is world class, but what really separates him is how unpredictable he is on the pitch. The way he disguises his passes and his shots makes it almost impossible for defenders and goalkeepers to read him. So I think that's really already a weapon that most players never fully develop. But the one area he still needs to polish is his finishing ability. Sometimes you will see him dance past 2 or 3 defenders, create the perfect chance, and then either sky the shot or just miss the simple pass to a teammate in a better position. So I think that's just a question of composure and shot accuracy, and it's normal for a player his age. So what gives me confidence about him is that Spain is actually on the rise, and they've got such a strong team that looks ready to dominate international football for years. So if Lamine Yamal keeps improving, gains experience, and maybe becomes a key part of Spain's success, I don't think we'll wait very long before he's holding a Ballon d'Or. Because honestly, it just feels like just a matter of time.
Right. Brendan, if we take a look at history, the youngest ever Ballon d'Or winner was R9 Ronaldo at 21, and now Yamal is just 18, and he's very close to winning the Ballon d'Or already. And people already say the sky is the limit for this teenager. He can be the next Messi or Ronaldo. So what does this Ballon d'Or path look like for him? Do you think he can reach the height of Messi and Ronaldo?
I don't know if he can reach the level of Messi and Ronaldo in terms of numbers. I think that there's very few people in the world right now that can get to that level in terms of goals. I think the only name that comes to mind for me is Erling Haaland, and I think he can get there because his numbers are absolutely immense. And I think that if Manchester City are able to get dominance in the Premier League and the Champions League once again, then I think that Erling Haaland is the next person to get to those sort of Ronaldo, Messi numbers. But as things stand right now, Lamine Yamal is also going to be in and around that conversation. For me, the guys at the forefront for the next couple of years are going to be Mbappe, Haaland, and Lamine Yamal, and depending on if he maintains these sorts of levels, Dembele. So I think there's a couple of names floating around, but Yamal definitely is incredibly close. I mean, he was the runner-up this year. He retained the Copa Trophy, and at just 18 years old, what he's been able to do and the responsibility that he's being given for two massive teams in, the Spanish national team and Barcelona is pretty immense. I mean, he seems to be getting better and better and more mature every single game. He seems to be getting bigger, stronger, faster, more mature. And Tian, you mentioned there's a couple of rough spots in his game, but I think those are things that can be polished very, very quickly. He does seem to be getting better at those little things each and every game. The talent is undeniable. I think he truly is a generational talent. And I think that if he gets a little bit more luck with his club team, Barcelona, I mean, I think they were incredibly lucky to go out in the Champions League last season. I think things are still very close for them in La Liga. So I think success on the national stage with Spain, particularly at a World Cup, that gives him a chance to claim the next Ballon d'Or award as soon as possible. But if we're looking at the long-term picture, I think continued success domestically with Barcelona and on the Champions League stage, I think is going to be massive for him, as well as increasing his, not just in goal involvements, but his actual goal output as well. I think that's also going to be massive. So things are definitely looking positive for him. He seems to be getting better and better. He seems to be able to maintain high levels of consistency at an incredibly young age. I think he is going to face increasingly strong competition from the likes of Erling Haaland, Mbappe, and Ousmane Dembele's continued rise and maturity and output. But I think things are looking very promising for him. And if he's able to maintain these levels of performances and continue to get better each and every single season, I think he's got a very good chance of not just claiming his first Ballon d'Or, but multiple Ballon d'Or awards.
Right. I get this feeling that now things look too smooth for Yamal, and he might take the same path as Ousmane Dembele took when Dembele was young, because a career must be full of ups and downs. Yeah. And Dembele proved that he's up again. Yamal hasn't experienced anything downslope, so maybe he has to take that path to become one of the greatest in the football world. But now let's dive into one of the biggest what-ifs in recent football history, the cancelled 2022 Ballon d'Or due to the pandemic. It's a award that Robert Lewandowski feels, and many agree, was rightfully his. He was unstoppable that year, winning a treble with Bayern Munich and breaking the scoring records in the German Bundesliga. So, Tian, do you think France football should make a symbolic gesture to hand Lewandowski the honor he deserves?
I actually think this should be one of the easiest call in football history. I mean, Lewandowski absolutely deserved the 2020 Ballon d'Or, because that year, like you said, he was literally unstoppable. He led Bayern Munich to the historic treble, and not just as a passenger, but he was the top scorer in all three competitions, 55 goals and 10 assists in one season. I think those numbers just speak for themselves. The problem, of course, was France football canceled the award because of the pandemic. They said it wasn't fair, since some leagues were cut short, like the French league, and the Champions League had a compressed format. But let's be real, Bayern still won every single Champions League game. And Lewandowski was the only player in Europe to break the 50-goal mark that season. So the dominance was so clear, no matter how the schedule looked. So that's why I think re-awarding him the trophy now would be the right move. Because not just to correct a mistake, but also to send a message to younger players that hard work and discipline matter. Because Lewandowski was it's fair to say he's one of the most professional guys in football, because he's the strict diet he's been stick to, the strict training, and he's always focused. So giving him the Ballon d'Or for 2020 would honor that, and also just to keep the award's credibility intact.
Yeah. I think many people compare the 2022 condensed Champions League season to the bubble season in the NBA. Compare the champions of Bayern to the NBA champions LA Lakers. But I think if you take a look at those matches, for example, Bayern's 8-2 win over Barca.
Yeah, I like that.
You would give full credit for that Bayern squad, and you would know the quality of that Champions League victory was nothing but spectacular.
Yeah.
So I think Lewandowski fully deserves that honor. But the question is now, Brandon, should he be re-awarded? Because the 2020 Ballon d'Or was passed. A cancellation was a cancellation. Should he be re-awarded the Ballon d'Or award that year?
Look, obviously there were plenty of disruptions and crazy things happening that year. But, I think considering it was, almost 5 years ago now, and, in most kind of voting seasons recently, there's always been kind of a bit of a debate and difference of opinions in terms of who should be recognized for the award, particularly, the Vinny Rodri situation. And even this season, I think it was relatively close between Dembele and Lamine Yamal. But I think in that 2020 year, there was just no debate. I think what Bayern Munich were able to achieve and how crucial Lewandowski was for that, as well as the goal numbers that he put up. I think if we went back to that season, there was absolutely no debate that Robert Lewandowski was going to be awarded that Ballon d'Or title. So I think if there was any sort of question marks, or maybe it should have been this guy, maybe it should have been that guy, then I think it would be better to just kind of leave it in the past. But because Lewandowski was the standout and the undoubted would-be winner of that award, I don't think there would be any harm in going back and awarding him the Ballon d'Or trophy for that season. And I think just ending the kind of saga and troubles right there and then, and kind of just acknowledging, even though it was a disrupted European football calendar, it was still, a very exciting season and a very historic season for one of the biggest clubs in the world, Bayern Munich, and one of the best strikers of the modern era, which is Robert Lewandowski. So I think just a quick acknowledgement, a photograph with the award, send the guy the award, and just kind of end it there and then. I think that would be fantastic for the player, for the competition, for Bayern Munich. I don't see anybody being upset with that remarkable season being acknowledged. So I would like to see it. I would like to see Robert Lewandowski get that award and be recognized for the incredible season that he had, and Bayern Munich being able to celebrate a phenomenal season and a legend that has obviously now left the club, but did incredible things for, like I've said, one of the biggest clubs and most successful clubs of all time. Whether that will happen, I have my doubts, but if it was up to me, yeah, give the guy the award, recognize what he was able to do that season, take a photo with the trophy, move on.
Right. Let's see if Robert Lewandowski will get that retroactive Ballon d'Or award and if Ousmane Dembele can reclaim the honor again. With that, we end this episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to Sideline Story and leave your comments wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, you can also check our website at radio.cgtn.com. Until next time, stay on the sidelines with us.